Hello everyone, in this video I wanted to show you a little process and how I go about making watercolors with mineral pigments. First we need palette knives, measuring spoons, binder, and the pigments of course. Here I have around 50 grams of this pigment. So I'm gonna start by adding around 30 to 40 ml of binder. I'm gonna add it little by little so that it doesn't get too much. Yes, when I make paints I tend to add less of the binder, and once it reaches the right limit I would stop there, because generally I do not really keep extra pigment with me. I just put it all on the slab at first. So I'm really careful when it comes to adding the binder. Even after adding around 30 to 40 ml of the binder, sometimes it can be really hard to mold the paint. So I tend to add spray a little bit of distilled water into it. So that helps me a whole lot when I have to mold the paints, and it gets a lot easier when it comes to that. Also, I used to add honey when I was making paints, but it happens to take a really long time to dry, and some pigments don't really go so well with honey. They get way too sticky. So I started adding a bit of glycerine into the binder, so that helps a whole lot. This is a small tip that I can give because I have struggled with it a lot. I tend to get the paints out of my glass slab most of the times. So once you mix the whole all the ingredients together with the palette knife, I prefer to move the whole pigment to, say, the right side of the slab, and then I take a little bit and I mull it for a couple of minutes, and then I move the mulled pigment to the left, so if you know what I mean. So this way it has helped me save a lot of space on the glass plate. So what happens is, if I mull entire 50 grams together, it tends to go haywire. It goes out of my slab and I'm not even sure if they are mulled right. Yeah, a little bit of the paint and bring it to the center, mull that real nice, and then move it apart. So if I do this twice, that's it, I'm done. So earlier I was mulling it for, I feel I was mulling it for a really long time, but this tip has helped me really make very fine paints, and I didn't really have to spend more, double the time that I used to do. So this has really helped me a lot. And yeah, if you already have a huge glass plate, I think that is easier. Also, if you have a bigger Muller of maybe 10 centimeter radius, yeah, that is also good. The one I have is 6 centimeters, and it's perfect for this glass slab that I have. The glass slab is around 40 by 60 centimeters. So for this it works perfect. But yes, if you have a smaller glass plate, I think this tip will really help when you have to make more paints or out of more pigments. Now that this is ready, yes, and how do I test my paints? I take a little swatch. I swatch them on the paper and let it dry, and once they are dry, I take a white tissue paper and rub it over the swatch. If you can see any bit of pigment on the tissue, then you may have to add in a little more of binder. So that is one way of identifying if you need more binder or more pigment. So yes, I did receive questions about making matte colors, because a couple of people had asked me about mica pigments and why they are really expensive. And yeah, so if there is another alternative to work with the same recipe, yes, you can always go for natural oxide pigments or mineral pigments. You can find synthetic pigments too. So these would be a lot cheaper than the mica pigments. Mica pigments are only when you need metallic watercolors, but if you are planning on making regular watercolors, you can always go for these colors. Yeah, let's fill in the pans now that it's ready. Okay, so now we are done with the first few layers of the paint. So once they dry, I add in 2 to 3 more layers and give it a nice top. And these pigments are easy to work with, and again, based on the expense of the mineral pigments, also there are expensive ones in these as well. So yes, especially rare pigments and natural pigments without additives and all that. So those ones do turn out to be expensive, but you can always work with brick red oxides or yellow ochre and buff titanium. So these ones do fall into affordable pigment category. So it does work out really well. You just need a good muller as you keep making and practicing, and figuring out and researching a bit about the pigments that you're working with and the ratios, the binder ratios that you mix along with them. Always keep a note of that if you are gonna make them again. But yeah, if it's just for fun, just keep playing around. So that's it from my end. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.